3, 2. Oh my God.
Yo, what's up?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the program.
The Airtime Podcast is presented by Van Shoes since 1966.
There's nothing fake about it. Have something to believe in and be yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Welcome back to the podcast. It's been a minute. I was snowboarding, busy with that, judging natural selection, and I got a dog. I've just been busy. So, and I built this studio, which took me way longer than I thought and cost way more money. But I think it looks pretty good, and I thought I would kick off the new chapter of Airtime with a good friend of mine now. I spent the last 3 seasons, roughly, filming alongside Sean, sometimes full-time, sometimes part-time. And I got to witness him go from full rookie to somebody who is blossoming, blowing up, going from the Canadian up-and-comer to making a lane for himself in just snowboarding in general. And it's been a pleasure to watch you out there, and you got great manners, and I'm a sucker for people with great manners. So we got Sean Miskiman on the show. Thanks for coming on, boss. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jody. Thank you so much for having me. I do want to say, podcast studio looks amazing. I was blown away. Definitely a vibe. Yeah, I'm just stoked to be here and chat, and thank you so much for the kind words.
Thanks for noticing that I went the extra mile here. The posters on the wall have, a lot of them have duct tape on them. Picture frames, man. Picture frames are way more expensive than you would think. Even on Amazon, a decent sized picture frame is like $100. So I've been going to the Reuse It Center pretty much daily trying to score those. So if anybody's listening to the show and you have snowboard posters or picture frames in the Sea to Sky area, let me know and I'll come grab them all off you.
That's dope, dude. Reuse, reduce, and recycle, man.
I will say thank you for the drop-off. Sean dropped me off for... What are those exactly?
They're like old Burton trading cards almost of the old team. I got a stack of them from the Circle, John Martin, and I dropped Jody off. Terrier's one, Jake's one, Trevor's one, and Craig's one. Figured it would be a nice little gift to kick off the whole stew.
I definitely wanted to add a couple pictures to the wall. I got one of J2 and one of Jeff Anderson over there, and I want to get like a nice like collection of all the snowboard figures who have passed. And so Jake Burton and not Terry, Craig added to the mix was nice. But maybe we'll get this show on the road now. What have you been up to? It's summertime now, or we're rolling into summer. What is Sean busy doing after a long season filming with me?
Well, I recently just went home back to Saskatchewan to visit my family. It was actually a couple years since I've been home. I've just been so busy, focused on snowboarding and kind of doing my thing. And that was amazing. There's nothing better than going and spending time with your family. I realized when I was back home, I was like, I need to do this more. It's just like home cooked meals, good talks. And then I'm headed to Mammoth here in a couple days for the World Quarterpipe Championships. A little nervous, not much of a transition snowboarder, but we'll see what happens. I definitely got a little hunger in me. I definitely want to go and show up, but who knows? I'm going in zero expectations and just want to go have some fun with the boys. Going there with Dustin Craven, like how often do you go hit a quarter pipe with Dustin Craven in Mammoth? I'm pretty hyped.
Yeah, Dustin's he's a Swiss Army knife. He's good at it all, and I bet you he's gonna get a couple really good photos and videos there, because I feel like whenever he attends one of those events, he's definitely down there to partake in the festivities, but I think he's gonna go for it. You know, it sounds like almost like a modern day super park kind of gathering because it's through slush, Pat Bridges, and it's one of the grand finale kind of events of the year. I wish I was going. I know lots of people are going. I saw Dara Reed the other day is gonna go down, and a couple other people I bumped into, but I'm gonna go look at wedding venues because that's what I'm doing. And I brought up to Chelsea, my fiance, that I was gonna go to the slush quarter pipe thing, and then she said, "You're gonna do that over looking at wedding venues," and I was like, "Wow, that's one way to quickly put yourself in the not a good play." So I'm glad you're going there, and I think that you were touching on that. You don't know if you're gonna send it or you're not gonna send it, and I'll tell everybody right now, if Sean is down there, and there's some speed that he can take into this thing, he's gonna take it.
Yeah. Who knows? Zero expectations, but that's also very exciting. You're looking at wedding venues with Chell. I'm so happy for you guys. That's so exciting. It's an awesome new chapter of your life, Jody.
It could be. I mean, we'll see. I'm so excited. I'm excited. It sounds expensive. I don't want to get tricked into this whole like spend $50,000 or like what? No.
I'm excited for the wedding party. I think everyone else is too. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think weddings are a tax, and I don't want to buy into them. But I hope she doesn't listen to this. Cause I mean, I love her dearly, but I just don't want to spend a bunch of money on a wedding. Anyways, quarter pipe invitational slush. Who do you think is going to show up and ride the best?
That's a tough one, man. There's a bunch of heavy hitters, and like I feel like a contest like that brings out like people you never heard of, and like I mean, everyone's out there kind of to hold their own, and, you know, there'll be some hungry kids. I think Raibu, I think he won it last year. I definitely know he'll be out there in full force, I bet. I hope Ben's there because, man, I love watching Ben ride transition. One of my favorite snowboarders to watch snowboard and then watch him on a quarter pipe. I think it's pretty cool that Slush is also doing a quarter pipe contest. I think it has some history in snowboarding, and I think it's like a cool way to gather the industry at the end of the year. And I want to say it's not a contest per se. It's a gathering of all of us together riding a quarter pipe. And I'm not looking at it like a contest.
That's a good headspace to go into it. But we really hope you win. We're sending down our best, you and Dustin, and you're going against Raibu and Ben first. So all the best.
Yep. Buckle up.
Yeah, that's going to be a heavy lineup. I'm looking forward to it. I always feel like Sam Taxwood, Nick Baden. Yes. There's always just like a bunch of others that just have a wild skill set. There's some serious ATVs because I feel like there was like a 10-year hiatus where quarter pipes just weren't that big. They weren't that prevalent, similar to seeing half pipes. They just died. Transition snowboarding just dissipated to like there were hip events, big air jumps, and then that's kind of it. And now it's like, I like that Slush is just like sticking to it. Like, no, it's another quarter pipe event. Because secretly, deep down inside, I'm like, can it just be a hip event? Like, I want to ride a hip.
Me too. I mean, I've never really ridden like a proper 22-foot quarter pipe that's cut out. I'm a little nervous, but like, I think that's what brings the excitement. Like, I don't know what I'm getting into, but I'm getting into it, and we're doing this thing.
All right, let's steer this back. You said Saskatchewan. That's where you're from. That's where the McMorrises are from. And I think off the top of my head, there's not too many others that are... Are there any other pros from Saskatchewan that you know of?
No, it's pretty much just Mark and Craig. And those two, I owe my whole snowboarding to those two. I wouldn't be a snowboarder if it wasn't for Mark and Craig. I still remember to this day, I was talking with my dad when I was telling him I was going to do this podcast with you. And I remember the day Mark got second at X Games in 2011. He came home with the newspaper, and it was like a headline, like, Canadian Saskatchewan snowboarder gets second at X Games. And he showed me it, and I was like blown away. I didn't know anything about it. And then I went snowboarding with my school for the school field trip, which was like super something I would have never done. And I instantly fell in love. I knew it was going to be something I was going to do for the rest of my life. And I looked up to both Mark and Craig throughout my whole childhood, and they kind of like paved the way for me in snowboarding and kind of like showed that like Saskatchewan, it's known as a place you can watch your dog run away for 3 days. It's about as flat as it gets, and they kind of like paved the way and showed that like you don't need these like crazy mountains to like snowboard and have fun. It's like all you need is a piece of wood and some snow, and you can just kind of do the damn thing.
I mean, yeah, especially Mark being, I think it's definitely like a top 5 of all time, as far as like talent goes and winnings, etc. And yeah, he's from Saskatchewan, which is wild. I'm from Manitoba, the province neighboring that, and it's like similar, but Saskatchewan's got like that even more flat rep. What was the scene like growing up there? Like when you started, Mark brings home this X Games. He's like, "What up? Check me out, man." And you're like, "Damn, I'm gonna start boarding." Like you go to the hill, and like, what are the vibes like? What are the features like?
We were like pretty limited on features. Like we didn't have like an amazing snow park, but there was a sick scene. There was a snowboard shop called Extreme Adrenaline Board Shop, and there was actually the older crew of snowboard guys. I would have been 11 years old when I started snowboarding, and the shop was full of like 20 to 25-year-old dudes that would actually come take me out of school and take me snowboarding and kind of like basically mentored me and taught me how to snowboard, taught me what was cool. They were all like dripped out in Tech 9 outerwear, and like when I was younger, I was like long collective ski, and they kind of like steered me in a path of like what was cool in snowboarding and mentored me. They brought me out to Whistler for the first time and let me stay in their camper, which was crazy. My parents let me do that, but they like trusted them so much, and they became like family. I just want to give a shout out to those boys because they like fully helped me out. And yeah, the snow park also wasn't that crazy. My dad had actually built me a drop-in ramp in my backyard. Off of our deck, we had like a little like 10-foot drop-in ramp, and he like welded me a rail because my dad like used to like help build homes and grain bins back in Saskatchewan. And yeah, that was kind of like how I learned how to snowboard, and that was a community. I would spend hours in my backyard. Literally, I would get home from school at 3 o'clock and snowboard till like 9 o'clock, and my mom would have to drag me in. And then on the weekends, I would go with those boys, and then when I was lucky enough, they would pick me up from school at lunch. I would go snowboarding, but I didn't really have too many like young snowboard friends. It's just like those old dogs that really like helped me out and mentored me.
The dad welding the rail. My dad didn't weld me the rail. My uncle did. Uncle Dan, he's recently passed away. Love you, buddy. Thank you. It's insane what a good piece of welded steel can do for a kid who likes snowboarding or skateboarding. It's like we had all these janky rails, and I was lip sliding ladders, but they were aluminum and you were sinking. And then my uncle saw me doing it one day, and he's like, "I'm going to be back next week, and I'm going to like build you this flat bar." And I didn't even give him specs or how to do it. He just brought me the next weekend. He brought me this piece of steel, like square bar, and it was like 15 feet long. And it's, oh, dude, I rode that thing every day. So similar. Like mom yelling, like, "Get back inside!" And it's like 9:30. You're like, I gotta learn how to front board this thing,
dude. That was exactly like my whole like. Probably from like 11 to 13, just spending hours in the backyard. I would convince my mom to come out and like try film me on her old handy cam, and I have a bunch of old like footage on the YouTube about me doing it. It's pretty embarrassing if you watch it. I mean, not the best snowboarding or skis ever, but it gave me a home. It gave me something to work on every day. Every day I was going out and trying to get better, and it was like pretty integral part of like growing up and like learning and like fighting through all that stuff. So yeah.
So you touched on what was cool. So for people that don't know, how old are you, and what was this era that you grew up in, and like what was in your eyes cool growing up in Saskatchewan, early Sean? Like you mentioned Tech 9 there.
Yeah, well, the board shop there, they're pretty Tech 9 heavy, Tech 9 stepchild, no miss. And what was cool, there's definitely like Chris Bradshaw, Lucas Magoon. Like I definitely was vibing with those guys. I had like big long collectives. I started this like long collective company called Paid, and I was like all about just like gangster snowboarding style. It was like number one. They were like, it's not about what you can do, it's about how you can do it. And like I like to think that that's something I take now into consideration. It's not about like what you do or the trick you do. It's about like the way you do it and the kind of finesse you have when you do it and making it your own. And yeah, that was kind of my style. I was definitely like a little OG Tech 9. I had the arms like this, doing nollies everywhere. And then that slowly phased into like when I started to ride a little bit more slopestyle contests. I drew a lot more inspiration from like Mark, and definitely shortened up the hoodie a little bit, narrowed in the stance, got a little bit more proper.
I like that you had a little bit of that early inspiration from Lucas and Bradshaw and probably a couple others in there, because similar, that was like my shit. I was like Chris Bradshaw, Lucas Magoon. I mean, you could go on, but yeah, those guys were very special. And still to this day, it's like, if you're a young kid, it's like, why wouldn't you aspire to come up with like a unique style at a young age that's your own? Because they're still filming clips, and anything they film is like gold.
It's
like,
timeless.
It's timeless because people are and it's so rare to be one of those snowboarders that has that like timeless style where if you do anything, it's like Mark Sollers. It's like, what do you want to see him do? A front three Indy, you know what I mean? With Pop, it's like, what do you want to see Bradshaw do? It's like, I don't know, a crazy nose blunt bonk, or like,
Totally.
you know? And it's like, some people just have this gift to make like the most basic of tricks so exciting. And then there's lots of people that never really figure out that lane and that importance. And it's like, once they're done chucking meat, career's over. Like, nobody wants to see you do another cab 12. Like, we're good.
I think it's really important to kind of like find your lane and find your own style, because it's like the snowboarders I look up to, they have created something that's more than snowboarding. They've created a style. They've created like something that's bigger than snowboarding behind them. And I feel like that strives all from style. It's not just because they could do the craziest spins ever.
I agree. So you mentioned Chris and Lucas and Mark McMorris. What videos were you binging back then?
I was like pretty late into the snowboard movies, but well, not late actually. I remember Mark actually had a garage sale. Would have been like pretty soon after he got second at X Games. And I went there and he gave me a little tour of his room, and he had all his trophies and stuff. And then he gave me Sandbox Now You Know and his board that he did the back 10 on in the movie on the Seventh Heaven jump. And I watched that movie an insane amount of times. It was like pretty special to me. It's still special. I still have the board hung up in my house.
Nice.
It's like it's followed me around forever, and it's signed. It's like a little memento, little like reminder of like where I came from and how much inspiration those boys gave me. And then moved on to Standing Sideways. It was kind of like Now You Know, and then I got Standing Sideways, and kind of was like all about the Burton films. And then I also watched a lot of like the Bear, like videos at a Bear, Marcus Mondays, Videograss movies. I'm like pretty bad with remembering.
Oh, everybody
like,
is.
I'm like, that's not my thing. The thing is, I only watch snowboard movies, but I just, a couple head knocks. I don't got the best memory.
Yeah. But, I'm right there with you with a couple head knocks, not the best memory. Take it easy on us, everybody. Take it easy. You kind of started out as a contest kid, and since we got a lot to cover here, what drew you into the contest world? Just simply knowing Mark and wanting to be a part of that? Like,
straight up, like, I'm gonna be honest, like, yeah, like I was just like, I want to be Mark. Like I thought I wanted to be Mark and like do that whole contest scene. And when I was 13, I started riding for like the team Saskatchewan slopestyle team, which is like, it was so sick. I was very lucky and very grateful. There was a guy named Russell Davies who kind of like started coaching me, and he kind of had my back, and he wasn't all about contests. He was about just going snowboarding. Like we would go to the mountains every weekend. Like he would drive me out, or my mom would drive me out to Banff. We would go snowboarding, but we'd never ride the park. We would just go snowboard around the mountain. And one of his thing was, he was like, I'll always beat you I would race you switch for your board. He would like race a switch down the thing, and like if we lost, he would say he would take our board. We would just like cruise. Anyways, so that's kind of the start of my contest journey. And then I moved to Calgary, rode there at COP, went to the sports school. And then, yeah, I don't know. And then I started riding with the Next Gen slopestyle team. And the contests were always kind of hard for me. I love doing contests, but I felt like I slowly started to lose my love for snowboarding, where I was kind of like chasing points a little bit. But
So you felt like you were getting a little burnt out?
yeah,
because of-
not like, yeah, a little burnt out, but I just felt like I slowly started to be like, I wanted it so badly. I've always wanted to be a professional snowboarder my whole life since I started snowboarding. The moment I saw Mark in that newspaper, I was like, I'm doing this thing. And I think it was hard because I was like pretty hard on myself. Like when I wouldn't do well in contests or I'd struggle, I'd be like hard on myself. And I always wanted to become Mark. So I was just like, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just like a kind of an interesting time in my life.
Totally. I mean, if your mentor and hero is the best in the world at something, to aspire to be as good as them is great because it's a driving force, but it's also most people aren't going to be able to achieve, Mark McMorris stardom and win he's the best in the world. Mm-hmm. And for that to be like, that's my guy, that's like picking Michael Jordan, and then you still made it to the NBA. You know what I mean? You're out there, you're doing it, but you found your own lane. You just might not be, Michael Jordan. You're going to be, whoever else.
I don't think you want to be Michael Jordan either. Like, I think it's important to find your own lane and do your own thing.
Yes, it is. Who was in the mix contest scene back then for you? Are there any notable names that were also floating around at the time that are kind of pushing their way into professional snowboarding?
When I first started, I think one of my first bigger contests, you could say, was like a North American amateur contest, I think they were called. Darcy was at. I actually remember Darcy Sharp, who is now one of my neighbors and one of my close friends. He was there, and I remember just being blown away by his snowboarding. Who else? There was Luke Winkleman was at some of the beginning contests when I was at, some of the Junior World contests. Judd Hankey's was there. There was a couple of them. There's a couple people that have pushed their way. Not so much from the Canadian standpoint, but a lot of the Americans that have kind of done well over the years were there.
What did you love about contests and what did you hate about them?
What did I hate? I love being there and being around the whole community and being a part of it all. It's pretty special to be at those contests. You would just hang with so many different people from so many different places. What I hated was the fact that I didn't feel like I couldn't truly show my snowboarding. It was kind of I had 2 runs. If I didn't do well in those 2 runs, it was just it was done and over, where I feel it's I couldn't really live up to my potential of showing what I could truly do. It was 2 runs underneath pressure. You don't got it, you're out. And then, yeah, that was kind of my least favorite part about being in contests.
I feel like I've always been more of a session snowboarder, based on vibes. If I session something with a good crew and everybody's making you feel comfortable, it's I feel like I just excel in those situations for the most part. But similar to you, contests, it was just so the headspace I would get into and find myself in, I would leave them and have this utter disappointment in myself, similar to going out and hitting a backcountry jump and not getting a clip, but in a different way. And I really do not remember enjoying contests whatsoever. I remember being 18 and just going to my last one at Mount Seymour, and I was like, I'm done. I'm never doing one of these again.
Yeah, I was definitely a jam format kind of guy. I wish slopestyles were jam format because it gives you some time. It's not just one run, let's do this shit, let's get it. You're able to ease into it. It's good vibes. It's a little bit less now or never type of vibe. And I don't know. I'm a big jam guy.
I like jamming too. So you're into the backcountry now. It's been probably 4 years of you buying sleds and figuring that whole world out. Why, what, you said Mark McMorris inspired you to go into contests. What was the big inspiration? What was the voice in your head saying, you should go ride backcountry? Most kids, that don't do contests, maybe they fade into rails for a bit, especially at that age. And I mean, you were relatively young at this. You're probably 18, 19, which is a young age to be I want to buy a truck and sled and get into the backcountry. So where did this like I'm going sledding come from?
Well, I came from like a bunch of things. I moved to Whistler when I was pretty young. I moved here when I was 16. And I was able to ride the mountain quite a bit. And I was kind of like phasing out of, well, not phasing out. I was still doing contests full on, but when I would come home, I'd be like so juiced to go ride POW with my friends. That was like the highlight of my season was like the POW days with my friends on the mountain. Just like the sickest vibes ever. Whistler's the best resort ever for it too. And then when I was 18, I had broken my leg pretty badly. And had to get surgery. And I was pretty down and out. When I broke my leg, I kind of went back home and stayed with my parents for a couple months. Got surgery. And that whole time I was talking with my mom and I wasn't missing contests at all. I was missing snowboarding with my friends, riding POW. And I always knew that at one point in my snowboarding, I was going to film in the backcountry. I was like, one point in my life, I'm going to be filming in the backcountry. That's just going to be the evolution of my snowboarding. Can't do contests forever. And then I kind of came to the realization that I didn't love contests and I loved snowboarding with my friends, riding powder. And why waste 3-4 more years trying to chase this dream just to then go do this when I could be like, you know what? I'm going to stop now and chase filming in the backcountry and riding POW with my friends because that was truly what I loved to do. And yeah, it was just like a weird thing. I just like came to the realization that that's what I was about. And that summer, I had healed from my broken leg. I had to get another surgery to get all my hardware removed. And then I worked my ass off. I worked 2 jobs, decided to buy a sled. And I was just like, if I'm going to buy a sled, I need to be prepared. I don't want to be the guy that's slowing everyone down. And I was like, I'm going to do this young. So when I get to the right age and like I'm able to have the opportunity to film with people, I'm like prepared, ready, and dialed in.
That's very wise of you to think that at that age. Did you have somebody kind of mentoring you through this process, kind of saying like, Sean, like if you want to start sledding, it's not as easy as like quitting contests, buying a truck and a sled, because it's not. And I think that that's a common misconception with people who want to get out into the backcountry. They're like, I'm good at snowboarding, I'm going to buy a truck and a sled. It's like you have to find a crew. And yeah, everybody wants to bring you on crews, but crews get full really easy. You have to have backcountry awareness and safety, and you have to be good at riding powder. It's like, it's a different beast. Some people pick it up really fast. Most people don't. So like, where did this whole like maturity of being like, I need to get all my ducks in a row before I can kind of get out there?
There was actually someone who mentored me. It was Tyler Nicholson. He was going through an ACL surgery at that time, and he had a truck and a sled. And he was telling me about how dope it was, but he was also letting me know that like it wasn't as easy as people think being out in the backcountry is. And he was actually one of the main reasons why I decided to get like an extra jump start on doing it, and really like pushed me. He knew how much I loved riding powder with my friends and like just like not doing contests. And he was actually a big contributor to like helping me make that jump from being a contest kid to being some powder junkie.
Let's talk about, it's your first season. What's your expectation and what's the reality when you get out there?
Well, my first season, I like barely snowboarded. My like whole goal with that first season was I barely brought my snowboard out. I was like, I'm going to go out and learn how to sled. And it sucked. I got stuck so much. It was like the biggest learning curve. I felt so out of my element, like some kid from Saskatchewan who's never been to the mountains trying to drive some massive sled. And it was really cool. It was like every day, like no matter how stuck I would get and how frustrated I would be like very grateful to be out there. And I'd be like, no, this is part of it. Like you got to learn how to do this, because if an opportunity arises, it's better it's happening now with my like sled homies who aren't filming and there's no agenda at the end of the day than like being out with you boys and like being slow and getting everyone stuck and slowing up the program.
Totally. I mean, that was a really refreshing take from somebody as rookie and grom as you. Like when you came into the scene 3-4 years ago, that King Snow year, which we'll touch base on, it was like wow. I remember Bo Bishop being like, dude, this kid is dialed. Like, avalanche course, went to the bald face risk maturity course that Pat Moore puts on, has been sledding in his own time for 2 years and learned how to sled, has all the shit for sleds. How did he do this? He had 2 jobs in the summer and he worked super hard to buy all this stuff, and he didn't complain and be like, I don't have any sponsors, so I can't get this stuff. Like, it just showed so much accountability, and like showed your work ethic, and it showed a lot about your character. And I think early on there was a reason why lots of people in the Sea to Sky Whistler area were willing to take you on. And I feel like there's lots of kids that maybe have a misconception of like, oh, how you got brought on to everything. And it was like because you had so much stuff beyond the snowboarding dialed. So kudos to you for figuring that out. And maybe Tyler and that group, I've seen you hang out with Martin Gallant and like Jamie Anderson and Mason and like all these older figures. And I feel like all those people kind of mentored you, and you took pieces of all that and you really came into the space like dialed.
Big time. I need to shout out Martin and Mason because those two also took me out so much my first year. They dealt with me getting stuck everywhere, and they were just there to help. All they wanted to do was like teach me how to sled, teach me how to maneuver in the mountains, like just make sure that I was like being safe and I knew what I was doing. And it was like that first year was the coolest year. I was like, so every day I was so blown away. I was so excited. No matter shitty snow, good snow, it was like, it was so special to me. I'll like remember that for the rest of my life.
I just love how hard it is. Like sledding, if you want to go left, you turn your skis right. And like trying to figure that out when you're in POW, and you just like your mind, if you want to go left, means like, I want to turn these skis left. And you're like, no, you got to dunk them in the snow. And you're like, what? What do you mean I got to dunk them in the snow the opposite angle that I want to turn? Like, shit don't make any sense.
And like the throttle is your friend. Like when you're starting to get stuck and you're scared, like give it gas. It's so intuitive, but it's like, I think that's what makes it fun. It's like sledding in itself is an art form. I have just as much fun sledding to the zone as I do snowboarding. It's pretty insane.
Same. And I feel like it's also like this tool that like, yeah, it's expensive, and it's a whole other beast to like wrap your head around using this tool to get out there. But I will say that when I'm old, looking back on learning how to snowmobile so I could snowboard, but also just be in the mountains with that tool, is one of the most special things that we as humans can experience based on like where we are as like a human civilization right now. We have a snowmobile tool to take us out to this, like snowboards are perfected. It's not the 80s anymore. Snowmobiles are perfected. You have these two tools that complement each other, and then you go out in the mountains with your friends. Like, I don't care if you have to get 4 jobs in the summer. Like, anyone who's listening to this that wants to do it, like, make it happen, because it is amazing.
It is the sickest thing ever. And also like the relationships you form being in the mountains with your friends. Like, dude, I've had some of like the coolest conversations with you boys building jumps, and like you just learn a lot about yourself because you're so in the elements, and you're on your own out there. Like, you got to fend for yourself in most cases, and it's pretty special being out there. I am very grateful to live where we live and be able to get to do what we do.
Yeah, it's magical. People are like, oh, you're stuck in the Whistler bubble. And you're like, yeah, for a reason. Like, if COVID 2 happens again, which I hope it doesn't, because, but like, if anything like that happens again and I'm locked in Whistler, that was amazing. Speaking of that, during COVID was the King Snow year, which is your first movie. Let's touch on that. How did you get the call? What was it like to finally get the call to be in a movie?
Dude, I was tripping. I remember I had no connection to really any sort of snowboard magazine, and Crispin gave me a call from King Snow. And I remember I was working a landscape job at the time, and I was at a hotel in Whistler cutting the grass. And I remember looking at my phone and getting a text message being like, hey, this is Crispin. Do you have a chance for a phone call? And I was like, stopped what I was doing. I just like left work. I just like walked away. Pretty sure I got in trouble. And he called me. He's like, hey man, like we're thinking about making this movie for like King Snow. Like, would you be down to film with us? And at first I was like kind of speechless. I'm sure he could attest to the conversation. I was like, Yeah, of course. Like that's like what I had dreamed of my whole entire life. Like used to sneak into the Man Boys premieres using Mikey Cicerelli's ID. Like that was like a highlight to think I could be in a movie with you boys and Craig, and have that one be my first one was really special. And yeah, I talked to Crispin. We started to break bread a little bit and chat, and one thing led to another, and I somehow got put on the crew, and the rest was kind of history.
Like, you were the only real rookie that year. Like, what did that feel like to be like the new guy on a crew with a bunch of old heads?
At first, I was scared shitless, dude. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, there was a moment where I was like, do I do this? Like, am I ready? Because I didn't want to start filming until I knew I was ready. I could hang and I could be a contributing member to the crew. And there's a moment where like I was second guessing it, being like, shit, am I ready? Like, do I got this? But then I remember my first day, I think I went out with you boys, and we went out with you boys, and we went all the way to Perfect Jump and Hollywood Cliffs in the Callahan. And I remember just like tripping balls, being like, oh my God. But everyone on the crew was like so nice, so accepting. It felt right. It felt like home. It was like perfect.
Let's touch on that day, because that day is, if I remember correctly, and as we said 20 minutes ago or so, we both have had concussions, so take it easy on us. You know, we might be flip-flopping around with the days and the jumps and everything. But if I remember correctly, that day, which is wild that that's your first day. Jeez, that's crazy. Callahan is so far for those that are listening right now. It's like a long sled ride, and if we're going there, that means the snow is good. It's deep, and we go and we build Hollywood, which is a classic step down in Whistler. Then we build Perfect Jump, which is a classic like high speed big gap in Whistler. Both of them iconic. And Belzil broke his arm that day.
Yeah.
So take us through that day. Take us through the clips. This is a wild first day in the backcountry. Let's kind of hear it from your perspective.
Yeah, I think it was my first day. I'm looking back. I'm almost positive it was my first day. But it was pretty crazy. We made it to Hollywood Cliffs. I stood on top. I was scared shitless. I was like, this is insane. This is really big. I don't know how I'm going to make it off this alive and land. And me and Bo decided to build one a little bit above you and Matt. And we like kind of pat this down, and Bo like shows me where to drop in, and it's like a board length away from the takeoff. And I was like, oh, wait, what? Like, are you joking me? Like, this is how fast you have to go? And he's like, yeah, like just this fast and just pop and you're good. You're going to make it. Anyways, me and Bo do the Rochambeau. Bo wins, goes first. He did a switchback one Indy first try. And then I went and I was like, I don't really know what I'm going to do, but I think I'm going to do a back seven. Like, that's kind of all I like felt comfortable doing. And then I did a back seven and got it first track. And then you went, I think you did a front seven on your hit, which was right next to it. Like, almost, we could throw a snowball and hit your takeoff. Got it first try. And then Matt went, I think did a cab five. And it just like, the session was like so cool. It was like so special to me. Vibes were through the roof. We were all yelling at the bottom. It was insane. And then we went back up and Bo back won it, got it first try. And I did a switchback five, got it first try. And Matt did a back rodeo 7 tail. And I just remember being at the bottom and being like, this is crazy. What is going on?
Like, this is filming. All you do is go out and get clips. This is so easy.
No, I was just like, how is this happening? What? Like, so confused, but it was super special. And then after that, we went and built Perfect Jump, which is a super famous jump in the Whistler backcountry that I'm pretty sure everyone's seen clips on. Famous one, Mikey Wren's front 10 melon in his backcountry real snow part. I've definitely watched that clip a million times. But anyways, we went and built Perfect Jump. And I remember like tripping out because that jump it's pretty big. Like, it's definitely got a sizable gap. And we built the jump. And I was like, as long as I don't go first, I'm like stoked because I didn't want to go first in knuckle. And sure enough, I won the Rochambeau and had to go first and hit it and somehow survived. The clip was a little flaily, but that happens. And then Matt went and broke his arm on that jump. And at that time, actually, I remember we didn't know Matt broke his arm, right?
I wasn't hitting that jump, and I was in the landing. I was shuttling.
Yeah.
And Matt rode down to me, and Matt's tough as nails. And I've been filming with Matt for over 10 years, and Matt was like, "Oh, dude, like my arm. Like I think I broke my arm." And I was like, in my head, I was like, "No way." Because if you did, you would be in so much pain. He's like, "Yeah, you're right. I'm probably fine." And then he like chilled for a bit. I radioed up, let Crispin know, let the crew know, like, "Hey, Matt might have an injury, but I think we're good." Then I think you went back up to redo your front three.
Yeah.
And you went huge, and it was so sick. And then the session really was like, you and Bo were in it. I think Bo was trying cab nines, and it's like the vibes were really like people were started getting really excited. And then that's when I clued in, like, Matt hasn't talked for a bit. Like, I'm like, do you think it's broke? I'm like, dude, I think it's broken. Like, he kept twisting it, and I don't know. We just kind of deciphered that it might be broken. But then he, I don't know if you want to finish off that story.
I will finish off the story. Yeah, so me and Bo kept sessioning the jump. Crispin kept on wanting me to hit it to get this photo, which is now probably one of my favorite snowboard photos that I have of me, a top-down photo on perfect jump. But anyways, Matt decided that he was going to sled out. And I don't know if many people know this, but perfect jump, it's a long ways. It's like a 2.5 hour sled out in like deep snow. And Matt Belzel sledded home one-handed all the way. Like how many kilometers? Like
50?
60 kilometers. It was crazy.
Like,
and that whole day, like looking back on it now, trying to explain it, it just feels like kind of a movie. It's pretty like a surreal, like first real day out with you boys.
Yeah, Matt sledding back with one arm is beyond legendary. It's like if anybody could you have to go up hills and down hills and through trees and side hill. And it's like try and do it. The next, like there's definitely a pretty big group of people who sled. Like try and sled from A to B that's like 5K with one arm, and let alone in like 40 centimeters of deep snow. It was I was like, he got back and I was like, there's no way it's broken. Like he did it one-armed because he was pretty sure something was up and he couldn't put weight on it, but he thought it was just a strain or something. And I was living with him at the time, and then he goes to the hospital and sends me the x-ray, and it's like the bone is smacked right in half, fully off the other bone.
And he had to get surgery. And I remember he didn't want it. We talked about, because we had recently gone through the Baldface Avalanche course that year or the year before. And we had like gone through the things, and he had decided that he didn't want to take a heli home because he felt like it could have just been a sprained wrist. But sure enough, he broke that thing.
Oh yeah, did he ever back five and knuckled so you come around completely blind? Fucking scary one. Mikey and you, since we brought up Baldface a couple times now, avalanches, you and Mikey had quite the day up Rainbow Mountain, and maybe you can take it from here.
Yes, me and Mikey did. So this would have been actually right before we started filming with King Snow. It was the same year, but it was in December, and we had wanted to go out and just like hit a jump because it was both going to be our first year's filming. And we just like went out for fun and built like a tiny little jump on the edge of a ridge. And we saw a crew of 4 ride this face. The first guy had dropped in and the face had fractured. Size 3 avalanche. And I'll always remember I was standing at the drop-in of our jump, and we could just see kind of the edge of the face. And I was like, I was here and the face was here. And Mikey, we just hear yelling, and I look over and we see car-size snow chunks like railing down the mountain like I've never seen before. And Mikey goes, I think there's an avalanche. And we were in a safe zone. We were totally okay. And it's pretty like crazy to talk about now. They're like, doesn't even seem real when we like talk about it. But yeah, it was like Mikey, we had realized that there was an avalanche incident. We could hear commotion. I had unstrapped my snowboard and ran to my sled. And it was me, Mikey Cicerelli, and our friend Sam. And we had sledded to the base of the avalanche and realized that there was a full burial. And there was quite a lot of commotion at that time. And yeah, it was crazy. Like, it's crazy. Kind of like gives me shivers. It was pretty hectic. There was one person buried. There was one person on top and two people coming around the shoulder of the face. And me and Mikey had got there and we had taken 2 deep breaths. We had made sure we were all on search. And we had not communicated, and this is one of the things that we could have done better, is we didn't communicate with the other crew about how many people were actually buried, because we knew there were a crew of 4 and we could see 3, but we didn't know if maybe someone else linked up with them or what. But we all converged at the bottom after a second. Me, Mikey, and Sam switched into search mode. We had talked to them. One guy was on phone with search and rescue. The guy on top was coming down the face, grid searching down the face to see if he had gotten stuck mid-face. But the avalanche was pretty big. He was 100% at the bottom, but that was a precautious thing. And we just kind of, it's crazy. It's hard to even recount because we just shut off our brain. And Mikey got his signal, and there was a bit of confusion about whether it was 5 meters or 50 meters. Mikey was reading 50 meters, but the guy next to him was reading 5. But in that situation, we were all panicking a little bit. But that all got cleared up, and we had marked him at 2 meters deep was the lowest reading we had got. We had probed him. First probe strike we hit. We were actually we thought it was the ground. There's like no way first probe strike we hit, but the avalanche debris pile was like 30 feet tall. Like there was no way it was the ground. Anyways, we keep it in. We realize there was a probe strike and we all start digging. And luckily we were able to successfully extract him from the avalanche. When we pulled him up, he was face down, arms in the snow, and he was blue. And we were able to pull out the snow plug, and I'll always remember his smile. It was the craziest thing. Dude, it's like talking about is insane. But we pulled the snow plug out and he like started to like cough up and be able to breathe. And we're like, at this point, like I'm fully in tears, breaking down. So is Mikey. Like we're just hugging each other. We didn't know what to do. We're like, this is crazy. Like he's obviously okay. We like rapid body scan him. And then all of a sudden, like 2 or 3 minutes go by. This whole incident took us 5 minutes from the time of the avalanche, from the time we were able to get there and extract him. It was roughly around 5 minutes, give or take. And then a few minutes go by and he's in the hole and he puts on these Oakley sunglasses, dude. And he has the biggest smile and he was fine. It was crazy, dude. Like, I don't even know how to do it. It was like that whole time we were digging up, I was like, are we going to like dig up like someone that's not okay? But very grateful that everything happened okay. And it was a great life lesson for me and really humbling because I realized how important it is to be with a good crew and how fast things can happen out there. And yeah, it's kind of crazy. And that was my start of my second year sledding.
How do you think that helped you navigate the last couple years, and how do you think that's going to help you navigate the future?
It's definitely changed the way I operate in the mountains. Like I definitely, when I am in the mountains, I don't take anything for granted. Like I understand that anything can happen at any moment, and I understand how important it is to have a crew that you can trust and have a crew that you could communicate with. And that is like a big thing for me, in which I'm so grateful that the Man Boys and Craig and everyone has always done, is we've had really good, clear communication. And that's one thing I take in, and I hope all crews do, is when you join a crew, you have the voice to talk. If you don't feel comfortable about a face or you don't feel comfortable doing something, speak up, because it's sometimes life or death up there and it's pretty gnarly. And that's like a big thing that I've taken away. And as well as just like being prepared, like do those avalanche courses. Do one once a year. Take that refresher, because when that moment happens, like, dude, like, it's way more intense than you could ever imagine. And you don't want to be thinking back like, oh, was it like this way that I had to do the grid search? Or like you don't want to be second guessing anything. You want to be like a well-oiled machine and able to do it.
Here's something that I think is interesting. And I don't really know if you said this on the podcast, but I've talked to Mikey and you offline before. And from what I remember, the group was a close group of friends, and the friends in the avalanche. So even if they did take a bunch of avalanche courses, the way that your human nature is for you to go into a different panic mode if you have such a deep relationship with somebody and they're in some sort of trouble. And you and Mikey show up outside, so you guys come in with no real tie to this person, so you can help facilitate. And as stressful as it is, you can kind of go in with a little bit more of a clear mind. You just got out of the risk maturity at Baldface, and you were able to utilize what you learned there to help with the extraction and the saving of somebody's life. I've always been like really concerned with like the people I'm in the mountains with now are so dear to me and so close to me. And like a lot of people who are probably listening, it's like you go into the mountain with your best friends, with your loved ones. And if something does happen, it's hard to think of like, don't go into panic mode and go into like, use your logistics and your rationale and think clearly and like keep your head up and look for signals. Like, is there a glove? Is there something? It's like, it's so hard to think like you wouldn't just go into full panic. And is that what you saw firsthand, is a group of friends going into panic, and then you and Mikey kind of help facilitate the day and save the day?
I mean, 100%, like definitely, like they were all lifelong close friends who have ridden around Whistler for a long time. And like I was thinking back, like if that was Mikey or you or anyone in that avalanche, like, dude, I don't know how I could have handled that pressure at that point in my life. Yeah, I think it was like a little bit of a help factor that me and Mikey kind of came in, because like, dude, if it was one of us or like one of you in that situation, it would be hard not to like panic. And those guys did an amazing job. Like at first we had a little bit of confusion, but like any situation that happens so unexpectedly, and like there's photos of the avalanche. Like it was a big avalanche. We were all shook in that situation. It's hard to think clearly when you know that you have 5 minutes to dig up one of your friends, or else you won't be able to share this experience with them again.
And you and Mikey are close friends. Maybe just speak on like maybe what that incident did for your relationship. As you said afterwards, it's just like you looked at each other, just started hugging each other. And it's like, when that just shows like, when things like that happen, it just really shows like how much you love each other. Because like as men, like most men, I mean, we're not great communicators with our feelings and stuff like that, but like at that moment, like I'm imagining your bond got sealed a little bit deeper. Maybe touch on that and just how much of a role he's played in your life ongoing.
Mikey's played like a huge role in my life. When I first moved to Whistler when I was 16, I moved in with Mikey and his roommate Liam Stevens, and we kind of have started this like full backcountry filming career, you could say, together. And that moment was a big like life lesson for both of us. And I remember we went home that day, both got in our trucks and drove home, and we didn't say anything to each other. We kind of sat on the couch and took it all in. And ever since then, Mikey's not only one of my best friends, he's like a big brother to me. And I don't know how that moment helped us grow together, but he has been instrumental in helping me become who I am today. He has been one of my closest friends, and even more now, someone I could always talk to. And I am very, very grateful for him.
I just want to reiterate that one thing that you said earlier about if you're the new person on the crew, speaking your mind.
Yeah.
And every avalanche course I've ever been in, they re-communicate this point, because even somebody who has all the tools in the world, sometimes they just overlook one thing. So maybe you're the guy who's staring at the weird black rock at the top and the weird cornice, and you took one course and you're like, I know cornices are sketchy. Like, that thing's pretty big. And so everybody might not even see it or like have looked at it. So it's like, it's your kind of duty being a part of the crew that day to speak your mind when you think that the crew could be potentially in a path of danger. Because you really need to go out there and navigate the risks out there as a group. But like, if you ain't speaking your mind, it's just one more opportunity potentially for something to go wrong. And as your scenario you just demonstrated, it happens quick. And I've seen really crazy avalanches now that I've been out there for a long time quickly happen. Like, we had a really scary one this year on a really small face, heel side turn. Nobody was watching. It was supposed to be a warm-up fun run. Was no chance that this zone should slide. It slid. It propagated. It pushed them into the trees. And the GoPro video shows it all. It's like, it was that close to something really bad happening. And so, like, good communication, eyes on, taking refreshers.
Not getting complacent out there, because we spend so much time out there, and that's why it's important. No matter if it's your first day in the backcountry, like, dude, there's definitely things I overlook. Like, you gotta look complacent. You're like, we ride this all the time, like it's mellow. Like, that's not a thing. Like, you can't be like, I ride this all the time, it never slides. That should never be in your vocabulary, because the mountains are so unpredictable. You never know what's gonna happen, and that's why everyone needs a voice. Because maybe it's your first time out, but you see a sign that we all don't see because we're complacent because we've been out there so much.
How important do you think it is for brands who want to market and be a part of this backcountry snowboarding thing to keep people on the team that are knowledgeable and experienced in the backcountry on the program? And I'm kind of bringing up that because I look at how Burton has kept people like Mikey Rentz and Mark Sollers on, and I think for me, I just feel like that's a really wise decision. As you're somebody younger, like, do you like being in the mountains with more experienced people, and like, how important is it to be out there with people that are better and more experienced than you?
It's so important. I wouldn't know. Well, like, for example, the King Snow year, all I wanted to do was be a sponge. I learned so much from you guys that has helped me in my snowboarding tenfold drastically. And I think it's very important. Like, you need those older people, those mentors, to pass on the information, to show you how to build the jumps, to show you the signs when it's not a good thing, to show you how to calculate how fast to go. I think it's a huge thing. I definitely wouldn't have done or like been able to ride the features or find the features that I've been able to ride if it wasn't for you guys. I think it's a cool thing that Burton's doing. I think it's a very important thing. I think all young backcountry snowboarders need a mentor.
I totally agree. I basically just asked you a question where I was just like, this is what he needs to say, and then you nailed it. Just because I'm like, shit, it is like, it's the wild, wild west out there. I mean, at the beginning of the conversation, we're both like, buy sleds, it's the best thing ever. But it does come along with this inherent risk of danger and stuff. And I mean, it is fairly easy to minimize those risks if you're out there with a well-educated group. I mean, the mentor is not going to always have all of the knowledge, but it's definitely somebody that a rookie can at least lean on. And like you said, being a sponge, and I just think it's really important for brands to have those leaders and those mentors enrolled in their company, especially if they're trying to really do this push for backcountry snowboarding. It's like, well, then you want to keep those people around so that you can bring your rookies into the backcountry safely. And I think that's so important just for keeping our community safe. And I think that you articulated that great.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I want to say I'm really grateful for you boys. The amount of knowledge I've learned from all the man boys, Craig, like, I'm so grateful for it, dude. It's like super, super special to me. And I definitely wouldn't be the person I am today without it.
All right, I'm going to hit you with a quick little 180 here. We're going to go backtrack here just because I feel like this is a topic, a hot topic that people like to talk about. You got perfect jump. You got form step down, you know. You got all these classics. Do you think there should be any rules or regulations around what tricks get done on them if you're a rookie coming out? Like, what, you know, you are a rookie coming in hot to your next chapter. We all know you're going to be pro soon, but just calm down. You're a rookie right now. What do you feel like, you know, how do we navigate that space? Because I feel like, you know, you hear some of the old heads talking on it and everyone's kind of got their perspective on it. I'm just curious to know your take.
That's a tough one. I've repeated tricks on classics.
Guilty.
I've done it. Like, of course I'm going to do it. But my thing is like, I do want to like stamp my name on perfect jump. I do want to like have my own piece on that jump, and I'm not going to hit it. It's like sometimes jumps like perfect jump, pretty much every trick's been done on it. So it's like, it's tough. I think going and just only doing that is maybe a no. Just going to old jumps and repeating tricks, maybe don't do that. But like, it's okay if you want to go and hit the form step down and like do a front 7 or do a front 9. It's like, yeah, stamp your piece on it. Everyone does that trick a little bit differently and does snowboarding a little bit differently with their own flavor. And if they want to do that, like, that's awesome. I think the more people who are out filming and are stoked, the better snowboarding is going to be. Like, I'm not going to be like bitter and be like, Dev did that like a couple years ago. Like, obviously, like, Dev did it the best. He always will. Like, but that's my 10 cents on it.
My 10 cents, not that anybody asked, but I'm going to say it anyway, is if you have a trick that hasn't been done on it, or it's a trick that you feel like you do unique, like if you do front 7 melons and you tweak the melon all crazy, like bring that to it. But if you have kind of, and this is where you got to look at yourself in the mirror, you know, if you got a basic bitch back 7, maybe don't go do that on the feature. Maybe try one of your more flavorful tricks on it, so at least you kind of bring, like what you were saying, like your unique stamp to that feature. Your front 3 on perfect jump, you had your own flavor to it. Nobody's going to be mad that you did that front 3 like that. You know, it was you brought your own little sear stamp that day. The shifty after, like that was special. That was a nice one. That was a good shot. You went big. Way to go. That was huge.
I don't know. That's what I was kind of thinking with that one. I was like, well, people do 1080s on this, and I don't feel comfortable doing a 1080, so I might as well throw it back to a classic and try to make it memorable.
Okay. Burton. You rode for Burton. One day, you're like, fuck it, I'm out of here. Why did you decide to do that? Who are you riding for now? And, you know, what was the reason for the exit?
There was like no overly real reason for me. I just like, there's been a huge crew of Burton riders in the Sea to Sky, and I wanted to become Sean and become my own person and not just fall into like being another Burton snowboarder. I didn't want to like, I could like follow the same like formula that they've been following. I was like, I'm going to switch it up. I'm going to take a risk here. And I ended up I ride now for Nitro snowboards, gyro goggles, and Arc'teryx outerwear, and I could not be more happy and grateful to be with all those people. They're my new family. And my reason to switch was like, I just felt like it was time to create Sean and be Sean for not just like some Burton kid who's following the same formula. I was like, I'm going to create this new image and become me and make it so it's like I'm not just Sean the Burton kid. I'm Sean who's created something special on its own and like puts his own mark on the industry.
Do you feel like it's easy to get lost on Burton?
Definitely. That was like another big reason. I was like, there's like so many heavy hitters on that team, and I was just like, I could start riding for Nitro, a company that I hugely respect, that's rider owned, rider operated. They have a great team with a lot of them have become some of my very, very close friends. And I just saw an opportunity in the lane, and I was just like, you know what? Sometimes you just need to switch it up. And I was like, this is like, I want to like rebuild what my image looked like from the ground up and something that I'll be with for the rest of my career. So I've slowly, like, I started riding for Nitro. And then I started riding for Gyro, and I didn't have an outerwear sponsor. And I've just been slow. Now I ride for Arc'teryx, which I'm like extremely grateful for. Got to say that first. And I've just been slowly accumulating a group of companies that I like truly stand behind their product. I truly stand behind their values. And yeah, that's kind of been my goal with that, my rebranding. I'm taking my time with what I'm doing and making sure that everything I ride, it's because I truly want to ride for that company, and I stand behind them 110%.
I like that play. I'm not going to sit here and talk shit on Burton. Like, they got some of my favorite riders ever, and they have had some of those riders since I was a kid. But I always have liked when somebody rides for Burton, leaves Burton for whatever reason, and then redevelops everything. Keegan Valleca, Gigi, the list goes on. It's like, you feel like when these individuals leave Burton, you're like, oh, what's going to happen? Brian Iguchi. It's like so many riders, ride for that company, and for whatever reason, end up going somewhere else. And it's like when they ride for a bunch of different companies, it's in a way, to me, it's like going inside of your house and like decorating it from a bunch of different stores rather than just IKEA or whatever. It's like if you have 5 different sponsors, there's a way to really showcase your personality through that. And I think you're doing a really good job of that, of slowly picking brands that reflect you, and I think it's really important for riders to, pick brands that support snowboarding, I think, is the biggest one. Because there's like a big group of super big companies, but some of them are doing a really good job of just like supporting, like Yeti. Like, Yeti's not a snowboard company, but I fucking love Yeti. I have a Yeti water bottle. I don't even ride for them. They don't give me any money. I like their product. I like that they get behind things like natural selection. They support a bunch of my favorite snowboarders. And and they do it tastefully. And I think there's a lane for a lot of those brands. So, that's the biggest thing. So be with a brand that supports snowboarding.
Dude, all my brands are the best too. They don't only support snowboarding, they support me. Like, all my conversations are like, they want me to be Sean and do what I want to do, and they 100% back that. And I'm like, I'm so grateful. Like, I truly feel like I found the best families. Like, I all have like my weird little families. I have my Arc'teryx family, which is like the coolest opportunity I could have ever have. Like, they're so rad there. And then I have my Gyro family, and then I have my Nitro family, and I go on all these trips with the different teams, and it's like so special, and the crews are so different, and I learn different stuff from each people. It's been the coolest like little journey and refining myself way. I'm super grateful for it.
So you're 23. A lot of this, like, you quit contest riding, moved into the backcountry. It's been like a 4-year time slot here. You've achieved a lot. You covered a lot of ground. You've redeveloped yourself as a rider, kind of gave Sean Miskiman a new, branding kind of look. And you've been doing a really good job with that because it's authentic. So it comes off kind of rad. What would you kind of attribute this success? Did you read a book or listen to a podcast? Do you say like a motto in your head over and over? Like, what's the catalyst here that has kind of helped you get to where you are, which is somebody, I would say, that's headed towards a life of fulfillment and success in one way or another?
Thanks.
But what's the driving force here?
I read a lot of books. I read a lot of like mindfulness books and like sports performance books. While I was reading them, I haven't lately. Pretty guilty. But I think it's just I love snowboarding more than anything in the whole entire world, and I want to do it for the rest of my life, and I want to be not just a snowboarder. I want to be someone that like the Devs and the Renzes and the you guys that inspired me. I just want to be that for someone else, and like I just am doing everything I can in my life to like do the right steps so I can be that for someone else and be more than snowboarding and like make more people fall in love with it. It's like, I'm not going to say it's because like I read like some mindfulness book. It's just like I love this shit more than anything. I'm going to do it for the rest of my life. And I just want to do it to the best of my ability. And like, I obsess over it aggressively.
Yeah, that's when you know you're hooked. When you obsess with it. Like, you know, when you're riding around on the bus to school and your fingers are your snowboard and you're doing giant front 360s with your fingers and people are looking at you like, what the hell are you doing? And you're like, fuck out of here. This is my life. Well, this is what I'm about. And you're listening to your favorite video part song in your headphones. Those are special times.
I tell my parents this all the time. It's like pretty much every decision I make in my life somehow evolves around snowboarding. I'm like, how is this going to help me be better and do what I want to do and do this for the rest of my life? And every life decision evolves around it, 100%.
I mean, a life of snowboarding in the mountains with your friends seems like a good life path. And I think what we're seeing now more than ever is lost people that don't have goals, ambitions, and some sort of like tribe and group to connect with. You know, it's like they're just wandering through life, and it's like you want people to find snowboarding and obsess over it because it's a really healthy way to live, and it's a healthy way for like humans to live. It's like you connect with nature, you connect with people, you're getting fresh air, you're getting exercise. It's like there's so many things that come with the lifestyle of snowboarding that's just good on a larger level for like society.
The community is amazing. Like you meet like some of the coolest people. It's like snowboarding's so rad, dude.
Agree. But on that note, you said that the community, it's rad. I'm curious to know, have you ever been a part of going somewhere, feeling vulnerable, not fitting in? And how do you kind of manage that? And I'm curious to know that just because I feel like snowboarding's got a lot of cliques and you're kind of younger and you're getting introduced to all these different crews, Americans, Europeans, and maybe take us through what it feels like to not potentially like fit in with all these crews, and how does young Sean navigate that?
Yeah, definitely. Like there's been moments where like I've been places and like it's normal to feel a little bit like awkward. Like sometimes I go on trips and I don't know anyone. It's like a fully new crew, especially now. Like I'm being introduced to like new people all the time. There's definitely moments where you feel like a little, not like a little awkward, like a little bit like, oh, all these guys are homies and I'm like the new guy. But I think it's really important to understand that like at the end of the day, we're all just snowboarding and riding a plank of wood. And I think like the whole cool guy attitude is like a super dangerous thing to get into. And as snowboarders, we need to really make sure everyone feels accepted and they ride through the park and don't feel like they're not cool enough to be there or like scared to go do a trick in front of people. I think like we're a bunch of snowboarders and we just need to love everyone. Who cares if this person wears tight pants and I like baggy pants? Like maybe you can learn something from that dude.
I totally agree, 100%. Plank. You filmed for Fixin'.
Yeah.
Plank.
Mm-hmm.
Big season. Big jumps. Maybe not your favorite season based on what I've talked about with you in the past, but let's talk on two huge jumps that you hit. Fury Gap and Stepmother.
Yeah, that was last winter, or the winter before last winter, I guess. It was a fun winter. Definitely, like I felt like I had left some stuff on the table, which a little bit bothered me, but we did. I was very lucky to be a part of two jump sessions that I'll remember for the rest of my life. One was a jump called Fury Gap that Solars actually found, and I hit with Rasman and Belzil. And it was probably the gnarliest thing I've ever hit in my whole entire life. Don't think I've ever been that scared. I actually think when we did the Rochambeau and Rasman had to go first, me and Matt hugged each other in tears of joy because we were so happy we didn't have to go first. And it was just like one big old, like, I don't know, how big do you think that thing was? Like, probably like 80-foot step down.
Yeah, I'd say 80 feet to the knuckle and then maybe like a 60-foot drop. But then like also like if you went as big as Matt and flying onto his, like It's one of the bigger backcountry jumps I've ever seen, if not the biggest. Maybe. Yeah, I think it's maybe the biggest I've ever seen. It was crazy. Like enough that like I was filming it and hiding behind my snowmobile thinking that would like help me in case one of my friends got injured. I was like, if I'm just behind the snowmobile, everything will be okay. I couldn't even watch. I was like, this is so fucking crazy.
Dude, so that session was actually crazy. Rasman went first, and then I went second, and then Belzo went third, I think it was. Or no, Belzo went second, and he air chaired that thing because it was like a high-speed divot to right turn to like a 10-foot flat before the jump, and Belzo was going to back 7, and I remember seeing him air chair and being like, I'm not hitting this thing, like I'm out. And then the boys talked me back into hitting it, and it was just like a crazy session. I kind of like, it's hard to remember. I feel like I just kind of went hollow head and shut off my head. But anyways, Raz got a sick front 3 and a switchback 5. Belzo did a back 7 and got a cover at 40 years old, which is just like insane and legendary in itself. It just speaks of how badass Matt is. And then I actually didn't walk away from anything on that jump. I remember I got into a little bit of a battle. I think I hit it like 8 times by myself, sessioning it. Didn't get anything, but I've been looking at it and I'm like super fired up to go back. I'm like, if there's one thing I want to do next year is I want to go back and hit that jump.
How the hell do you mentally prepare yourself? Like when you build the jump the day before or on the group text, you're like, we're going to this jump and it's 9 p.m. and then you start shaking and then you have anxiety. This is basically my thought process. How do you mentally prepare yourself going into complete war and you know that it's going to be it's not going to be safe. There's going to be landmines everywhere and they're going to be dropping bombs. Like you're hitting a beast feature like Fury Gap or like Stepmother. How do you wrap your head around that? What do you go into? What are you saying to yourself?
That's funny. It does sometimes feel like you kind of get all like juiced up. Like in the morning, there's definitely moments where I'm like walking around the house listening to Kobe Bryant motivational speeches. I've done that in the house, like pulling up to the sled lot, being like, we're doing this thing, like let's get it. But I don't know. I think I just like trust the fact that like I've put in the work to be able to like, I could do it. Like I just tell myself, I mean, you've heard me say it all like so many times when I'm at the top of the drop-in, I'm like, you got this. Like, you got this. Like I give myself words of affirmation and just remind myself that like, dude, you put in the work, and then sometimes you just got to drop in and see what happens. That's my biggest thing. I'm just like drop in and see what happens. And I've put in the work. I've done all the calculations. I've thought about everything I can think about. That's all you could do.
Let's go viral on them. Front 3, Stepmother, take us through it. You broke the internet with this. I'm even probably going to have to reshare the clip because it's so sick. Yeah, absolute. So sick, Sean. Take us through that front 3, the jump session on Stepmother.
Thank you. Well, I do have to say, actually, Devin did hit it from the platform above. Informed that to switchback 5. It was pretty insane. But back to that jump session. Me and Matt had talked about hitting that jump earlier in the winter. We had sledded past it and it looked like it was forming up, and it hadn't formed up, I don't think, in a couple years. And then I was out, it was April 19th, and I was out sledding for fun because we didn't think it was going to be good snow. And I remember I got back into service and Matt texted me. He was like, yo, should we go hit Stepmother? And I was like, yeah, snow's good. Like, let's do it. And I was like so gassed. I had like the funnest day of just going out and lapping with my homies. But anyways, I was like, okay, we're doing this. I went home, stretched, and I watched a bunch of videos. I was like searching on the internet trying to find Stepmother clips. I was like, what am I going to do on it? What am I going to do? And then I didn't know what I was going to do. I was like, it depends on like where I end up in the Rochambeau. But we were building the jump. It took a little bit longer than we had thought, and fog was rolling in. And all I remember is Rusty being at the bottom radioing, being like, you guys need to hit it like soon. Like, you guys got to go, go, go. Like, kind of like pushing us to like do it. And then anyways, we did the Rochambeau and I won. And I was like, I have to go first for this thing. Like, are you joking? I was like so scared. But I think I remember I just did one speed check. I was like, Matt, am I good? And I looked at him in the eyes and he was like, I think that's the speed. Like, and I was like, I trust Matt with my life. I was like, if Matt thinks this is right, he's hit it before too. I was like, we're good. Like, I'm going to do this. I hiked back up. I stood at the drop in. I was like, you're doing this thing. You got it. Just trust yourself. And I was like, I'm going to front three it because I feel the most comfortable front threeing it. And I don't actually remember taking off. I just remember spotting in the air and being like, this is going to suck if I fall. And like, I need to land this. And then I landed it. And I remember just being like, I really hope that's a clip because I'm not going back up. And I actually got so stressed. Like that night I was like, oh man, like you just front three'd it. Like you didn't even want to go try to do like front seven or like a back seven or something. And I remember like that day I kind of beat myself up when I was at home. I was like, should have done more, but then it all worked out. And I don't know, I'm pretty stoked on that clip. It's definitely one of my favorites. That will be my favorite clip.
Yeah, that clip is so sick. And it's FT, so you don't need to get another. To me, like, yeah, you could want another clip on it. But if I got something FT on something that you popped good, you didn't drift, you went deep, you landed good. Like, the clip is perfect. You know what I mean? You just did a huge front three and you landed first try and your landing's good too. So you're just like, okay, I checked all the boxes. What do you do? A back seven? Maybe. And if you would have hit that thing front sev or back sev, based on seeing Razman try those cab nines and getting absolutely bounced, and he was literally landing all of them, but he just couldn't power through the landing. I was like, I think you're just hyped you didn't have to hit it again.
Yeah, that's actually what I should say, that like I was contemplating going up and doing something else on it, and I had watched Razman and Belzel. Razman try cab 9 and Belzel try cab 5 and get smoked. I remember looking at Rusty and being like, yo, am I good? Like, I don't want to go back up. Like, I like pretty much exhausted all my mental energy hitting this thing. Like, I'll go do it if I need to. And Rusty was like, no, I think you're good. But it was funny.
Let's talk on that. Rusty, former professional snowboarder, transitioned into editor and filmer of the Man Boys. He made Plank last year. You're filming with him. What's your dynamic like with Rusty? What's it like? Like you were mentioning there, you turned to Rusty and you're like, is that a clip? You know, what's your demeanor with Rusty?
Dude, filming with Rusty is the sickest thing because he is so brutally honest with me. He will tell me straight up, even if it's sometimes a little harsh, but he tells me straight up whether it's a clip or not. And he has so much prior knowledge from being a backcountry snowboarder. He knows what will work on jumps, how to build them. And this past year, he's been a great like mentor and kind of like guide of like being like, hey, like, you know, maybe spinning to the right will make this look a little bit better and will be a little bit easier. Or, hey, so like, this is probably where you should drop from. Like, you went a little slow this time, like go up 2 more feet and it'll work this time. And I've been like very grateful to have him kind of in my corner. And he gives me a hard time sometimes, but it's like, it's all love. And yeah, it's just kind of like cool to have someone who was in the scene and was a professional snowboarder and who's now become a filmer, because he just has like a different sort of insight and vision. That's been awesome.
Yeah, and just as someone who's filmed with Rusty for the end of his career, I'm not going to say the full thing because he had a long one. He was really good at building jumps, the best in the crew. He was probably the most consistent in the crew, and just the whole how to get a clip is like he has a real gift there. Like, it was really special to film with him because it's like he would land first try all the time, if not second try. He would throw a snowball. He would land on that snowball. Then he would be like, I got to go 3 feet left. It's a cab 5. So I go 3 feet left. We're like, I mean, on a big step down or something like that, like, it's nice to land where the fresh snow is, but like, I don't sometimes.
I had a saying this year where I was always like, trust Rusty. Like, if Rusty says this is going to work, like, you know what, dude? Like, I'm learning from you. I'm trying to be a sponge. Like, I trust Rust. Like, I feel like there's a couple times where I would try to do my own thing, and it was kind of cool because he would let me fail. He would let me build jumps that wouldn't work, and then he would be like, hey, just so you know, like, this is why this didn't work, and this is how you can change and be better. And I think it's been a cool relationship to have with them. It's been becoming one of my close homies.
I definitely like when a filmer is on the side of being brutally honest rather than fluffing something up. Yeah. There's nothing worse than driving home thinking you got a clip. You know, you're on a long, month-long rail mission and you think you have 5 clips, and then they send them to you and you only have like 3 that are okay. You're in the backcountry, you put in a 10-hour day and you think your front 7 is a clip, and the filmer got all excited when you rode away, and then they send it to you and it's the worst front 7, but it's just like, or it's a bad angle or whatever. There's a lot of things that go into getting a shot, but it's like, I would rather them be like, you could do a better front 7, you should do a better front 7 and pop more. And you're like, that was kind of harsh, but I needed to hear that, and like, let's get back up there. Rather than like fluff up a clip and then you see it in your part and you're like, he was right. He was right. That wasn't sick.
Rusty's amazing for that. He will not like fluff anything up. He tells it to you straight, and it's like, it's nice. I know when he's stoked, I'm like, sick. I could be stoked.
That's what I was getting at. It's nice to know that you can be stoked too. If he says you got a clip, you're like, I got a clip. Like, that was sick. And then it feels good. Then everybody's happy. Maybe touch on, you're out there with Belzil, who you mentioned is 40 years old, who's filmed video parts since the beginning of time. I feel like I saw Matt take Seb Toots under his wing, like way back in the day, like him and Duffy and Alterna, and he took me under his wing, and he took Razman under his wing, and he's been in the game for so long. So maybe just touch on like, Matt, Bo, and Raz, and just what those individuals bring to the backcountry, and just hanging out with them.
Sick.
Since that's been your crew.
First off, I'll touch on Matt. Matt's such a legend. He has been filming video parts almost as long as I've been alive. I think it was like 2002 was his first video part. We talked about roughly around then. But he is such a legend. All those dudes, Razman, Bo, you, Matt. It's been really cool to film with because you guys bring a different kind of maturity and experience and have really helped guide me in a way. And it's like, it's special to me because I watched all the Man Boys movies. Like, I used to sneak into them before I was 19 to go to the premieres, and now being out there with you guys is pretty rad and pretty special. And there's a different set of knowledge with someone like Matt, who's been out there for years and has mentored so many different people. He kind of knows how to say things in the proper way. That's like, sometimes it's like not too harsh, but harsh enough. And it's a cool experience. And it's cool to see Matt because he's still progressing. Every time he's still getting better. It's insane. And he just loves snowboarding more than anything. If we're not filming, he's off doing fun runs. It's pretty cool. And I also want to touch on Razman. Razman's been like a big brother to me. He's helped me out. Like, me and Raz have had some pretty fun jump sessions where I've been like so terrified to hit something, and he's like really talked me through and like explained to me like what to do and how fast to go and what to expect, and like all these different life lessons and snowboarding lessons that I'm so grateful for.
And Bo taught you how to hockey fight and be an extreme double wildcat taker.
No, Bo has done the same thing. Like, Bo has been the man. Bo's helped me so much with sledding. He's like always been like, when I'm like second guessing something, he's like, no man, you got this. And like, he's such a good positive reinforcer, and has just like been the man out there. Has always made me feel so comfortable and so accepting. You guys are the shit.
I'm gonna exclude myself from that, but yeah, that crew is all-time individuals. Let me ask you this. And I wrote this one down because I thought it was good. What does a dialed crew play in your ability to block out fear and allow you to fully commit to riding at your highest level?
A dialed crew shouldn't block out fear, but it gives you positive reinforcements. Like, I don't think it should block out fear. I don't think you should be like, yo, I should drop into this. Like, I got a dialed crew that'll get me out of it. Like, that doesn't matter if I get caught in an Avi. I don't think you should be doing that, but there's definitely something about a dialed crew where I'm like, you know what? Like, I could ask these guys like questions. I'm like, yo, do you think it's okay if I drop from here and I'm going to have enough speed? And I trust you guys. When you guys are like, I think that was too fast. And if I don't personally know, like, I'm like, cool. I trust these guys. They're dialed. And like, even with just like traveling through the mountains, there's such good communication when you have a dialed crew that there's such good communication that it's like, it's nice. It makes you feel a little bit more comforting. You know what I mean? Like, instead of just like cowboying around and you're on top of this jump, you're like, oh, maybe should I do this? Like, should I not?
Let me get away from Whistler here. Favorite boarders outside of this place? Who's inspiring you? What are they bringing to the table that you're like, damn, this is what I want to look like?
Mickle. I mean, he's a pretty Whistler, but Meeks, he's definitely inspired me a ton. It's just like his attitude. He's like the nicest dude ever. If you ever talk to him, he's just so like happy go getty. And he also has the sickest style. He's like, the way he turns and like how fast he takes everything, and he's not like hesitating. He's like flowing down the mountain so beautifully. I like take so much inspiration from him and Ben. And then from like really outside like the backcountry world, I mean, I watch a lot of backcountry. I take a lot of inspiration from the contest guys, like the way they do their tricks, like still like Mark. Take a lot of inspiration from Stolly, the way he snowboards, and Torgay. They just like have like such a proper snowboard, like technicality wise, that I'm just like, I think that's cool and I want to do that in my snowboarding.
I feel like I always try to draw inspiration from people who do things a way that I wish I could do them. That's like not necessarily the way I do them, but I'm like, damn, like someone's like really light-footed, like a Nicholas Mueller, or Stolly's really light-footed, or I don't know, Torstein's looking really light-footed these days. Yeah. And I always like, oh, I wish I could be like Freddie Kalberman, like, oh, so light on their feet. Kazu. And I'm always like, although Kazu doesn't look like he's light on his feet, he looks super powerful, but you know he's light. And I've always wanted to like have that more. And I see you going out into the mountains, and I see you kind of starting to butter around and not just wanting to build a cheese wedge, and kind of seeing this like new direction. Where do you want to like take your snowboarding next? Like, what kind of terrain do you want to be riding?
Yeah, I feel like with my snowboarding now, like I have ridden lots of cheese wedges in the past, but now what kind of excites me is riding more line snowboarding and starting to do more natural stuff, because I find that stuff takes so much experience. Like you could be the best snowboarder in the world, but learning how to read terrain in a way to ride it au naturel is like something special. There's like something special to be said about it, and riding the mountain without building a cheese wedge down it. And it's something that's kind of new, and it's been exciting. And I've been trying really hard to do my best at it, but it's hard. It's been a big learning curve, but it's kind of nice. It's a new little challenge for me and a new thing.
It's a new lane.
Yeah.
I mean, a clip that is filmed fully au naturel, like you say, organic, however you want to say it, is just so much better than something that's built, to me, in my eyes. When I see something that's just natural and somebody does like anything off of it, I'm like, fills my soul, because it's just like, that's exactly what I wish I could do. Like a natty front seven, you're like, what? Or like a natty back one, or a turn, or I could go on for days.
Yeah, and there's something to be said about like, you know, doing a couple beautiful turns and then blasting a sick natty back seven. It's just like something that's exciting, and seeing it as like a bigger picture rather than one hit, seeing it as like a full blank canvas and putting your track down. It's like something that's new and exciting, and something I like want to learn and grow at, because like it takes a lot of experience to be able to like read terrain that way, and I'm hyped on doing it. It's one thing I think I need to do more in snowboarding, and I think it's important.
Do you want to go down like a path of Manuel Diaz, J. Rob, Or do you want to go like more mini golf? Like in a perfect world, what kind of video part would you curate over the coming years?
I think I'll never leave like the big Whistler step down and jumps. That will always be a part of who I am, and I love doing that so much. I think it's the sickest thing ever. But I would love to one day go to Alaska and slowly like put my time in there and ride like some bigger, more exposed, proper line snowboarding. I kind of want to do it all. Like, I don't want to just be like this like one trick pony who like just hits cheese wedges or just rides mini golf terrain. Like, I want to do it all and learn all, because there's like aspects in it all that all can intertwine, and I think it'll keep everything fresh and exciting for years to come, and always give me something to like learn and grow at.
I feel like that's the best video parts too. If you look at like the best video parts that have ever been filmed, it's like a nice mix. I mean, you got some lines in there, you got some AK stuff that's just buck wild exposure, you got some step downs, you got some fingers, you got some pillows, you got some cheese wet. You get all of that together. Last year, Ben Ferguson did a really good job. You could see that that snowboarding and snowboarders are pushing towards that a lot right now, which is really exciting. And you're part of that club. But yeah, that's the best parts to me, is like a well-rounded part. When you just see the jump, eventually you're just like, I get it. You're good at jumping, but I want to see you ride down some pillows and hold on for dear life and make it through. Like,
yeah, I totally agree. My favorite video parts, and you're right, Ben did an amazing job last year with Fleeting Time. It's just like, have it all, keep things exciting, keep people on their feet. Like, who knows? Like, who would ever think me riding in Alaska? But like, it will be new and exciting when I do it, and it takes years to learn. So like, might as well start now. It's kind of like the same thing when I started sledding. I want to start when I'm young, so I have all the time to learn and grow and gain those experiences and gain that knowledge.
you want to go to Alaska. Who you got a heli and you got 3 other spots. Who would be the dream squad? You got a 4-pack.
Dream squad. I would love to go with Grasman. He's 100% in the heli just because like he's been like such a good mentor and has had my back. Mikkel, because I love watching Mikkel in Alaska. And Nico, because he's just got like such a special like style and the way he floats down the mountains. For me, I think that would be like super cool and a rad experience, and I could learn so much from it. I think it would be rad.
Do we dare touch on Nicholas being canceled, or what? Are you a big fan of Nicholas growing up? And I mean, it looks like an unfortunate unfolding to the end of his career, which was really sad.
Yes, Nicholas will always be one of my favorite snowboarders.
Same.
He is so
best.
beautiful. And yeah, I don't know if I overly want to comment on that situation, but I just hope he's doing well, and some of the things he touched on, maybe I 100% don't agree on, but I just hope he is doing well in his own thing and is able to find some peace in his life and
Totally
be happy. I just don't want him to feel totally exiled, but I hope he knows that some of those things are not okay to say.
You mentioned rail riders. I'm just kidding. You didn't at all. I'm curious to know, is there any rail riders that inspire you?
Yeah, Tommy Gesmin. He had his Adidas movie Blender, which was like, I thought was so sick. I don't so much watch street snowboarding as much as I used to. I used to be a lot more like watch everything. Now I am definitely guilty of overly obsessing about powder, but that happens. Tommy Gesmin's definitely one. Marty Vachon, he definitely like stokes me out a lot. Who else? Sam Taxwood. I've been able to spend a little bit of time with him this winter, and he is just like the man, the nicest human being ever. And it's so cool to see that like he does it all. He does street snowboarding and backcountry. He's the man. But yeah, I don't have too much to comment on street snowboarding. I'm definitely pretty powdered focused.
Yeah, he's powder focused. Why do you think Plank didn't get nominated for any awards this year?
I don't know. I think we need to film a better movie, Jody. Let's buckle up.
That's a good Canadian answer right there. What's next for Sean? Are there any huge goals? You want to go to natural selection?
What's next for me? I definitely want to go to natural selection and be there and be on that scene and see what it's like. I'm 100% down. I definitely, at the end of last winter, I was lucky enough I went and hung out at the Revelstoke stop, and it really put a fire underneath my butt to be at that contest, and I feel like ready to be there, and I really want to focus on that. And this winter, kind of near the end, I said I was doing natural selection training. I would like go out on fun days and like imagine being at that contest and seeing like how I can progress my snowboarding to like be on that scene. And then I just want to continue to keep filming video parts of movies. One day I would love to do kind of my own project and just like have something with like everyone that's like inspired me from around the area and touch on that. And then just keep progressing and snowboarding as much as I can. Like I want to be the best snowboarder I can be, and one day I want to be able to like bring in the next generation and teach them and pass on the knowledge like you guys have passed on to me, and just continue that cycle, because I think it's rad and beautiful. I know how much it meant to me, and if I could do that for the next kid, I'll be super hyped.
I mean, it's a nice feeling to give back to the same community that you love so much. So those are some good goals. Natural selection, your own video, give back. Nice. Well articulated.
Thank you. And before we leave, I also just wanted to make sure I like have a special thanks to like everyone who's kind of like supported me along the way. Special shout out to like all the man boys, to Craig, who kind of gave me my like.
Oh yeah, shout outs Craig, Fixin.
Like
yeah.
Being able to film with him was super, super special, coming from Saskatchewan. Like him being a big inspiration into my snowboarding. It was something I'll remember forever, and it was so rad. And I also want to give a shout out to all my sponsors, to Arc'teryx, Justin Sweeney, Claire, DK, all at Arc'teryx. They've given me a family there and like a little home and a little community that like I'm eternally grateful for, and I can't wait for like the next bunch of years with them and the whole crew at Nitro and the whole crew at Gyro. It's pretty rad. I'm feeling really, really grateful these days and pinching myself, thanking my lucky stars.
Well, we're hoping that you make your own video in a couple years, because I want to see you go buck in AK. So give this kid some budget, and let's make that happen. Now we're going to ask Sean 10 questions. These ones are quick. Worst thing about backcountry snowboarding?
How cold you get sometimes.
Yeah, you got to switch that gear, dude. Arc'teryx, man. Come on. Keep this kid warm.
No, dude. No. But like, I'm very grateful. I have actually the best layering system, but it's just like sometimes it's a little chilly out there and you're trying to get gnarly and you're just like, oh boy.
Oh, we know how quality that art gear is, man. That shit's nice. You know, there's no denying it. So, yeah, I hate being cold. You get to the parking lot and you got to go from like, you know, your driving kit to your outerwear kit, and it's freezing out. Kind of looks cloudy. Did it snow a lot? Why are we even going? Are we going to get clips today? I got none yesterday. Yeah, that whole kerfuffle. Best premiere you've ever been to?
I think the first one, my first movie premiere, the King Snow premiere in Whistler, just because that was pretty special. That was when like they first got the King Snow cover out, and it was my first movie premiere, and I cried after that premiere. I was so happy. I'll admit it. I walked out, I was like, all I ever dreamed about was being at my own premiere in Whistler. It was pretty special with all my friends.
Fucking right. You know, that's premieres with homies is like it's kind of like what you work for in a weird way.
Oh,
you're like
100%.
Oh, people like what I did. I worked so hard for this shit, and people actually give like that I just front threed the stepmother, and everyone's screaming right now, and they're so hyped. That's a good feeling. And that would have been a good one for you, too. The King Snow movie was like, your first real video, and it's like you hit legit shit and filmed a good part, like for your first year. And as like, how old were you in that movie? 19?
I think I was 20, maybe 21. I think I was 21 at the premiere, but I filmed it when I was 20.
Damn. Yeah, like that's young. For backcountry, I mean, definitely not no Mikey Rents and promo copy, but you're young. Best trick you've ever seen with your own eyes?
Filmed?
Yeah, that you saw live, and you're like, holy shit, I just saw that. That was crazy.
Matt Belzel's back 7 on Fury Gap. I remember like watching that, being like, that was crazy, and I can't believe that just went down after you air chaired 120 feet. Like, you're insane.
One trick that you suck at?
Frontside 540s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What would you grab if you did one?
Indie, I just like don't feel that comfortable. Like, I've always wanted to film one. I just don't feel that comfortable. The whole like stop. I don't know. Something about it. Just like I struggle with that trick a lot.
If you weren't a pro snowboarder, what would you be doing?
Nothing. I don't know. I don't think about that. Like, I only have one vision, and it's be doing what I do for the rest of my life, and I don't want to think about what I would be doing without it.
I like that. Favorite thing outside of snowboarding?
Favorite thing outside of snowboarding? Dude, it's so hard because I kind of obsess over snowboarding. Spending time with my friends and family. I think that's 100% my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, you mentioned that at the beginning of the podcast that you went and saw your parents. And as you get older, you realize that you want to do that as much as possible. So good for you for realizing that. One piece of advice you'd give to young Sean if you could go back in time?
That everything happens for a reason, and don't get down on yourself when something shitty happens, because you don't know. You don't know why it happened, and it could have been a blessing in disguise. Some of my like things I've been the most down on in my life have turned to be the biggest blessings. So don't get down on yourself when something bad happens, and just keep your head up and keep on moving.
Maybe on a quick side note, how much pressure do you put on yourself when you're filming? And maybe over the course of the last couple of years, has that pressure helped you, or has it been a negative?
I don't think I put that much pressure. I'm just like so dedicated to the game that I just like, I just want it so badly. It doesn't feel like pressure, at least. It's just like, I want it so badly. So I'm like doing everything I can. I think it's been a big help because it's like kept me out of trouble and kept me in line and kept me dialed and kept me focused. And yeah, I wouldn't call it pressure. I would just call it motivation.
Why are you so obsessed with snowboarding? Like, where do you hope this leads? Like,
I don't know, man. When you get a clip, it feels pretty good.
Good, man. What are you gonna do when those clips start to fizzle out? You're 38, let's say, and where do you think you'll find your newfound sense of joy?
I think like being in the snowboard industry, like it's a part of who I am and a part of my life. Like, I want to continue to be in the snowboard industry, whether it's to work as a team manager, work in design. That's one thing that's been really exciting to me, is like been lucky enough to sit in some design meetings with Arc'teryx, and it's something that's really new and exciting and I love to be a part of. And yeah, to just stay in the snowboard industry and continue amongst this like whole family, whether it's in design or a team manager role, I'm happy.
Nice. All right, number 8, favorite grab.
Favorite grab. I think a good tail is nice, or a proper indie. Like, you do a nice indie grab, good tweak. It's timeless. Like, you gotta love it. Or like if you're looking outside the box, tail grab. But like, I like the good proper stock grabs. Make them look good. You don't need anything too fancy.
Okay, so you got indie and tail grab. If you're gonna do the indie or the tail grab, does anybody's riding come to mind so you can kind of visualize what you want to look like?
Yeah, Mickle.
Mickle for both of those.
Mickle pretty much on anything.
Nice. Top 3 borders of all time.
Oh boy. I knew you were going to ask this one, Jody, and I was thinking about it, and I was like, you can't forget because you're going to forget about someone and be bummed about it later. But top 3 borders of all time. I got to put Mark on that list just because he's hometown hero. I think he's one of the MJs of snowboarding. He's the man. Devin, 100% Dev. He's 100% on that list. And Nico.
Nice. I like that Mickle didn't make the list. I like that. That was good.
Well,
No,
I don't know.
I like it. Those were good, dude. Don't switch it up.
I'm not switching it up. I just that's a hard one to dial it down to 3 because there's certain aspects of everyone snowboarding that I love. And I mean, snowboarder as a whole, it's hard. Like those are the 3 people that I want my snowboarding to be mirrored after.
Who is the best style as a female rider?
Zoe or Jamie. Pretty tough ones to beat. I mean, Zoe is so strong and so stocked. She's the best female snowboarder in the world right now. And then Jamie just has that like lazy, timeless, steezy flow. Both of those 2 girls, they go neck and neck in style.
Do you think Jamie's gonna come back with something to prove after motherhood? Do you think in a couple years she's gonna come back and fuck shit up, or do you think she's chilling?
Who knows? Right now, I think she's just I know she's just enjoying being a mom. She's loving it, and if she comes back, I know she'll be coming back with something to prove. And if not, it's totally okay. I think she's doing her thing. I think she doesn't need to worry about that right now.
I don't think she needs to worry about anything. She's good. She's got her baby. Baby's healthy. She's probably got some sort of savings through all of the winnings that she's done. And, I mean, her and Tyler are still together. So, yeah, life's peachy. All right, who's the GOAT?
Oh, that's tough. There's GOATs for different reasons. I mean, the GOAT personally for me, I'm going to say Mark. He got me into snowboarding. Won everything. I think no one will be able to do it with the same style and finesse. But then there's also Dev, who's done so much for backcountry snowboarding. I don't know. It's so tough. I'm gonna forget one or not say it, and it's just those for me personally, they're my 2 GOATs, just for what they've done for snowboarding and what they've done for me and what I do. So yeah, that's my answer.
When you think of Devin, what gets you excited about his style? How would you break that down? And why is it so timeless? Why do people like Devin so much?
He's just so strong. He's such a boss. He goes big, and he does everything with unbelievable confidence. And it's just something special about when he rides. It's kind of hard. You're just you're amazing. He went big. He did it strong. Everything was proper. Nothing was oh, maybe that was a clip. It was nope, that was a hammer. Nope, that was a hammer. There was no maybes. To me, at least.
Just because we're still going here, and I got a couple last minute thoughts. I feel that people stopped going massive. There's a couple people that still do it, but during 2005 to 2000 and maybe 11 or 12, people were going hitting Chad's Gap and Devin's pioneering all these new jumps and stuff like that. Why do you think it is that so many people don't go as big now? Why do you think we're not going another 50 feet bigger than Perfect Jump? Perfect Jump was found 20 years ago, and it's still you're hitting the big jump in Whistler. Do you think that there's going to be a new generation that pushes it way, that goes to the next Chad's Gap, goes to the next pyramid or whatever, and puts another 50 feet on it? Or have we kind of maxed it out and now it needs to backtrack? Or what are your thoughts on that massive kind of progression?
I don't know. All I know is that that's what I want to do, and that's what really excites me. I want to be going and pushing it, and not just building things smaller. It's like I want to be building at least all the jumps to their full potential as big as they possibly can be and doing things as proper and legitly, because that's what fired me up when I was younger. Watching all those boys was like watching Mikey go huge, watching Dev go huge. It's for the same reason we slid past like these jumps and we're like, yo, Dev used to hit that, or yo, Mikey hit the Chief. Like I want that, and I can't comment on everyone else, but it's what I'm going to be doing. So hopefully it becomes a thing that the next generation's doing.
Well, I mean, if you're filming with Razman, which maybe you are, maybe you're not, that will definitely happen, because that's exactly what Razman wants to do. It's nice to see him have, I mean, Belzil definitely does, and Bo and myself in certain features, but I feel like you're young and he can kind of be like, he can talk to you in a way that's like, no, Sean, you should hit this and it'll be sick, and you're like, okay, I'll hit it.
100%. He pokes me all the time. He's like, yo, we should hit this. I'm like, oh, I don't know, Raz. And then like give us like 3 minutes bouncing back and forth. I'm like, yeah, know what, let's do it. It's kind of sick. I love filming with Razman for that reason. Like, it's like we kind of like, well, he pushes me and I like to think I push him. Maybe I don't, but it's been pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a good crew when you can go out into the mountains and there's everybody in your crew provides something for you in a way. Like I feel like lots of crews have that, and that's the reason why they like to film with that crew. Like whether you're a rail rider and you're going on like this trip and you're like, if I'm with this crew, I'm gonna stack clips. And then you go with like a fully different crew, which was way more common practice back in the day. Maybe tell us your thoughts on that. Would you want to film with the same crew for a certain duration of your snowboard career? Or do you kind of want to see it kind of like, film with other people often? Or do you feel like that's kind of could hinder instead of enhance?
I would it depends. Like, I'm definitely excited. Like next winter, I'm probably going to be filming with Razman and you boys. And I'm excited because I feel like it's like we work really well together. We have good communication, but I'm also I'm not opposed to bringing in new, filming with new people. As long as we're able to have great communication, that's also really sick. I don't think you need to film with the same people your whole entire life, as much as it's really nice, but I think it's nice to switch it up sometimes.
You're the fucking man.
Dude,
I'm really excited for the future of Sean Miskiman, because I think that I've seen it firsthand. I've seen your passion for snowboarding. I see how much you want it, it's going to be really sick to see your snowboarding evolve over the years. And I'm really excited to see you absolutely crush it in Alaska with Nicholas Mueller and Mikkel and Razman and Justin Hosnick hanging out of the helicopter.
That would be so sick. And thank you so much for the kind words, Jody. And I'm hyped to break in the studio with you. Everything's looking good. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. That was a crazy experience. We really locked in there.
That was crazy, I have to say. It was like breaking in the room was just crazy. So I hope everybody enjoyed this first episode. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll have more en route. Cheers.
You.
Peace out.
3, 2. Oh my God.
Yo, what's up?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the program.
The Airtime Podcast is presented by Van Shoes since 1966.
There's nothing fake about it. Have something to believe in and be yourself. You know what I'm saying?